Good afternoon, Alan Vandenberg here. Another episode of EQ for You, episode number 26. Today's episode is called When to Call a Timeout. When to Call a Timeout. We are operating off of the idea that 75% of a person or team success is not their IQ. If you have not done so, you can pick up my book that came out in 2020. The publisher said the best time to launch a book is during a pandemic. That is not true. It came out in 2020. The name of the book is called EQ Killed the Radio Star, how emotional intelligence can crush or crash your organization. So you can pick that up at Amazon or BarnesandNoble.com or also AlanVandenberg.com. So on to the episode, When to Call a Timeout. Every year in America, we have what is known as March Madness. It's a basketball tournament that includes 68 teams playing in elimination games throughout the month of March and a little bit into April. As I was watching the final four teams play over the weekend, I thought it was interesting how coaches and players use timeouts. You see, when the pressure, intensity, and stress of the basketball game, especially in the finals, increases, the use of a timeout is how they pause the game. When one team has the basketball with 20 seconds left in the game and they're down by 1 point, the pressure is on, and all that is needed is one basket to win the game. So the coach or the player calls a timeout, and it's roughly about a minute. All the players come together around in a circle on the sidelines, and the coach talks to them about what the plan is for the last 20 seconds. What are the options? What is the plan and the scenarios that could happen? The coach sometimes, even oftentimes, will ask the players for their input or ask if they have any questions about the plan. As I was watching several of these games over the tournament and how these timeouts were used during the course of the tournament, I was wondering to myself how a timeout in our lives or in an organization could sometimes be helpful, sometimes very helpful for ourselves, for our team, and for our organization to call a timeout. And do we even know that sometimes we need to call a short timeout? So just like with the intensity and pressure at the end of a basketball game in the March Madness tournament, there are times in our lives, in our teams, and in our organizations that things are totally chaotic. The pressure is high. So many balls in the air that we need to keep up in the air. Times of stress that can lead to high emotions and oftentimes low emotional intelligence and EQ behaviors. It does take use of EQ or emotional intelligence to even recognize that there is chaos going on. And for a leader, it takes the EQ skills of social awareness to see, feel, and hear that the organizational team or the team needs a timeout. For you or for a leader to call a timeout and ask power questions such as, what should we do? What should we stop doing? What decisions do we have to make right now, and which ones can we wait till later? What are our options? What information are we missing? And one of my new favorite questions when chaos is happening is, how can we make this work? For people, you and me, when our lives get chaotic and out of control, we might need to seriously think about calling a timeout. The first step is to recognize that we may be under too much pressure or stress. That is the EQ skill of self-awareness, knowing that we're under that much stress. As a leadership coach for years, I've seen many leaders completely burn out because they do not take the timeout that they really need. In a basketball game, it only takes 1 minute. So I'm not talking about a month-long sabbatical here, but a short pause. So that calling a timeout for us individual, what does that even look like? For me, it's things like listening to music, playing the guitar, riding my bike, driving a car. One of my best friends, that's what he does. His name is Orlando. And he says, you know what, Alan? I just get in my car and I drive. It's my thinking time. Other people like to garden. Some people like to take a walk. And the one that only takes 5 seconds is take a deep breath. That's a timeout. These timeout behaviors give me and other people much needed pause that I need to gather my thoughts, reduce stress, create a new review plan or options. What does calling a timeout look like for an organization or a team? If you're a company that just landed your biggest customer, Your organization is working 24/7 to meet the deadlines of the production rollout. It's what we call the grind. Have you ever been there? Long working hours, intense focus, and lots of stress. This can work for a while, but it is not sustainable long term. The organization may need to call a quick timeout. The organization may need to call a quick timeout and ask these questions. Are we still on track with meeting the requirements and the timelines? What do we need to do to ensure that we meet the deadlines? What are we missing? There's a Russian proverb that states, if you chase two rabbits, you will catch neither one of them. A quick timeout can help you, your team, or your organization identify what you are chasing. And again, this isn't forever. You will not see a 30-minute timeout in a basketball game. That just doesn't happen. We must live and move forward with our goals, projects, customers, and deadlines. But there is an interesting learning that we can take away from recognizing calling a timeout in basketball, in our lives, in our teams, and in our organizations. So hopefully this was helpful. It was a great tournament this year. There were some last-minute shots and different things like that, but I did see a lot of timeouts and reminded me of how we all need to take a look at our lives, our organizations, and our teams and look at when we need to take a timeout. So I'll leave you with these 3 things. Find what you do in life and do that to the best of your ability. Don't allow anyone or anything to steal your joy or happiness. And number 3, live life to the fullest because nothing is guaranteed. All right, have a great day. Stay connected. Talk to you soon.